To refresh your memory, we just left Buffalo country, and I thought it only fitting to start a tour of the Mile High State from Buffalo Bill's museum. From his final resting place, you can see Denver below. Colorado remains one of my favorite states for two main reasons. First is the scenery, which to me is fantastic, and secondly is the vibe in the smaller mountain towns. Many of the residents remind me of old hippies, which is a role I'm quite familiar with. There are also plenty of nuts who often have eccentric ways, and most of them are harmless and have unique lifestyles, and much of their income is derived from the tourist. Thailand is much the same way. From where I live, the mountains are a hop, skip, and a jump away, or I could be on a sandy beach at one of my favorite islands in about 4 hours. Tourism is big in Thailand. Before the pandemic, there were almost 400 million tourists that visited the country in 2019. Thailand only has a population of 62 million, so it does get crowded at the tourist areas during the high season. Colorado must enjoy Thailand, as there are quite a few folks here wearing a Mile High t-shirt. During our visits to Denver, we will typically see young people panhandling. The first thing Dee said when she saw these beggars was, "I can't believe they do that in America. How come they don't find a job?" I simply replied that they were lazy. We did not give them any of our money. Throughout the years, I've been asked many times by Thais for help to get an American visa. Sadly, I have to tell them that there is very little I can do, as getting a visa is difficult at best. On the other hand, Americans who have a passport can simply arrive in Thailand and stay 60 days without any problem. For Thais wanting to go to the States, they must show a compelling reason to return to their home country. Think about that for a minute. Just because a person has a large bank account and a car and a house paid for does not mean that person will necessarily return to Thailand. I have talked to many Thais who cannot believe that someone can make $15 an hour working at McDonald's. The minimum wage here is about $10 a day. That is one of the main reasons that a few Thais who have managed to make it to America stay. They want to work and make money. Back when I was in high school, bag packing was not even the library's big dictionary. But the word lazy was. I know this for a fact, as several of my teachers pointed it out to me several times. Before COVID hit, it was common to see bag packers on the streets of Thailand selling mostly postcards or other cheap knickknacks to fund their travel. The truth of the matter is that it is illegal to do this, but the authorities generally ignored them. Many Thais posted these visitors and their antics on social media. Some tourists simply resorted to begging. Personally, I think touring the world involves a certain amount of responsibility and ethics. Imagine a Thai going to America to tour the vast countryside. To finance their travels, they stop along the way and beg on Main Street in any town USA. Most Americans would soon get tired of this behavior and tell them that they either need to get a job or go back home.
I say this calls for action, and now, nip it in the bud.
There's a big divide between being down with one's luck in life and out begging. Bagpackers have never, nor will they ever receive any of my money. Funny thing is that while I do see a few Thai beggars from time to time, especially in the tourist areas, it is nothing like in the States. Sometimes I give the person some money, but it is always a tough call. Why? Many of these beggars are mafia controlled, which takes the collection plate at the end of the day. It can be quite disheartening, and it is another sordid story for a later day. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
The Rocky Mountain thing. George's Pizza is #1.
Marijuana, pot, ganja, weed, reefer, Mary Jane, and the list goes on and on. Colorado legalized pot in 2014. So when we were visiting, I decided to check out a head shop in Denver. It was a surreal experience, and I can still remember asking the police officer in the shop if it was really legal to buy pot. He just laughed and pointed to the counter. I took that as a yes. Now let's go back in history. Cannabis appears to have been introduced to Thailand from India centuries ago. Cannabis has been used in Southeast Asia in the kitchen and for various medical ailments. The stem itself was used as a source of fiber to make local products. The possession, cultivation, sale, and use of cannabis was criminalized by the Cannabis Act back in 1935. Why was this done? In a nutshell, it was because Thailand was trying to become more civilized in the eyes of the world. In reality, the enforcement was largely ignored. Then here comes Uncle Sam. The U.S. war on drugs, which was launched by President Richard Nixon in 1971, was primarily focused on domestic drug use and drug trafficking within the United States. Eventually, the U.S. started to exert pressure on other countries, including Thailand, to crack down on drug production and trafficking. Of course, this included money to fund the various projects. So Thailand introduced the Narcotics Act in 1979, which carried harsh penalties for marijuana. A couple of years ago, Thailand allowed people to apply to grow medical marijuana, so we decided to give it a shot. The process was exasperating and the paperwork was never ending. First, fingerprints were collected, then the interview process began before a committee of all sorts of government officials. After we had jumped through all of the hoops, we waited and waited. Then out of the blue, the Thai government legalized marijuana for the general public in June of 2022. The following month, our application was approved. The bureaucrats here are no different than the ones in the state. But at the end of the day, legalization of marijuana for Thailand has been a step forward, although the kinks are still being worked out. January 2023. And I'm thinking the plant, it's at least a good 12 foot tall. We'll see how it comes out. Eventually, I will make a more in-depth video about marijuana in Thailand. In the meantime, how about a bite to eat?
Come enjoy a Denver omelet at George's Pizza.
Good. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in New Mexico.